Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I want to talk a little bit about foreign ownership of property and businesses in the UK. I think, if you can bear with me, some of the information I've discovered is really quite shocking. It certainly surprised me, and there's been quite a revelation. Now, this all started when I did a video a few weeks ago, which I haven't yet posted, of Slough in Berkshire. Slough is a town about 20 miles west of London. It's pretty run down. It's having a pretty bad time, I think. It's pretty shabby. It has a single pedestrianised high street in the middle, and the usual shops are there: the vape shops and the pound shops and the charity shops, and you know, it's that sort of place. And I suspect it's probably very typical of a lot of towns throughout the UK. But on one side of the high street, almost the entire length, there's a shopping centre. Or in fact, it's two shopping centres joined together, and they were bought about in 2016. They were bought by a company who said they were going to completely redevelop it. They were going to knock them all down, and they were going to build new shops and flats and offices above, and so on. Now, last year, towards the end of the year, the owners announced that they were not going to go ahead with this redevelopment because of the current economic conditions, and so it's entirely in their hands as to whether or not they decide to go ahead at any stage. In the meantime, the shopping centre is getting emptier and emptier, and in the years that I've been going there, 4 or 5 years, or perhaps a bit more, I've just seen more and more shops move out. There are two big tenants, TK Maxx and Primark, but apart from that, it's shops selling saris and cheap shoes and cheap suitcases and all the rest of it. And it seems to me that the future of the centre of Slough depends entirely upon whether or not this shopping centre is redeveloped. The council have issued a Section 114 some time ago, so they're bust. They haven't got any money. And I thought I'd have a look and see who owns this shopping centre. And I thought it'd probably be a property company, or it'll be a pension fund, or it'll be a bank, or maybe even the council own it, who knows. But no, I found out that the people who bought it for £130 million in 7 years ago are the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority. And I thought to myself, in what world does a little country in the Middle East own a shopping centre in a run-down town west of London? And what particular interest would they have in that? I mean, for them, in the portfolio they must have got, it's probably no more than a garden shed. Why would they risk any money? It doesn't matter to them whether Slough is rejuvenated or not. I couldn't care less. And so it seems that this shopping centre is destined to just get quieter and quieter. Apparently there are all sorts of problems with the roofs leaking and bits falling down, and it's in a terrible state anyway. So it'll probably end up being closed or boarded up. But anyway, finding out that it belonged to the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority maybe start thinking about one or two other places in terms of London. I started to look around, and I went a few days ago to the Westfield Shopping Centre in West London, in Shepherd's Bush. If you live in London, you'll know of the Westfield Shopping Centre. It's 350 shops. It's quite a newish shopping centre, probably no more about 10 or 15 years old. And it is absolutely palatial. It's fabulous. I mean, it is just so luxurious. It's all marble and glass and lights and all the famous names you can shake a stick at have got shops there. Some enormous shops and so on. It's always pretty busy. Whether people are actually spending money or not is another matter. But it immediately sort of just shouts wealth at you, and wealth and money. And well, of course, this doesn't belong to us. This belongs to an Australian company. And so I looked at some of the other famous retailers. For example, Harrods belongs to Qataris. Now, Qataris own half of London, it seems. Qatar is a very small country in the Middle East. The local Qatari population is 313,000. They've got 2.3 million expats there. So in effect, 313,000 people are Qatar. In addition to Harrods, they own the Ritz Hotel. They own Canary Wharf, a huge 1.2 or was it 2 billion pounds worth of tower blocks where all the big banks are in the East End of London. They own the Shard, one of the most famous buildings in Europe, now the tallest building in Europe, I believe. This is all Qatar. Selfridges is owned by a Thai-Austrian combination. Harvey Nichols is owned by Hong Kong. The Dorchester Hotel, that's owned by the Sultan of Brunei. The London Eye, Madame Tussauds, Alden Towers and all that group, that belongs to an American company, Blackstone, and some of the shares are owned by the Lego family from Holland. Heathrow Airport, our most vital piece of infrastructure, that belongs to Spanish, Qatari, they are Qataris again, Canadians, Singaporeans and Americans. We don't have anything to do with that. Gatwick is owned by the French, but it's run by Americans. Battersea Power Station, another huge development, shopping and flats and so on, that belongs to Malaysians. In Vauxhall at Nine Elms, there's a huge development that's been going on for some time now, and one of the blocks of flats is finished, and I think it's 360 flats. The cheapest one-bedroom studio flat is from £711,000 apparently. That's all owned by a company from Dubai. There are two other towers, one 57 floors high, another 42 floors high nearby, which are being built by a Chinese company. The previous owners, another Chinese company, went bust apparently. And so I'm not an economist. Maybe it doesn't matter that foreigners own everything, but it seems to me that all these firms are making huge amounts of money, huge profits, and those profits are not going to stay in the UK. They'll go elsewhere. Of course, they'll pay their taxes and they'll employ people. But it's like this analogy I've given before about how you own a house and you're a bit short of money, so you sell the roof to the Chinese. And you still find you're a bit short of money. You sell the bathroom to the French, and you sell the kitchen to the Qataris, and you go on selling off till you don't earn anything. But you're still got to pay the rent. And in terms of residential properties, we know that there are all these. We know that London is now the money laundering capital of the world, and we know that there are all these foreigners who come and buy property in London because it's a safe place to put your land. The property price is going to go up, well, they're not going to go down, and you know that it's a safe country. And in order to try and clamp down on this a bit, a few years ago, in 2017, the government decided to bring in Unexplained Wealth Orders, whereby anybody who had a very wealthy, expensive property in London, they could say where you get the money from. Well, in fact, I think it's 4 years, they've issued just 4 of these orders. Now, if you have a look at this little map, which was produced by Private Eye a few years ago, every one of the purple dots is a foreign-owned property in central London. These are the most expensive properties in the whole country, some of the most expensive properties in the whole world. All the purple dots are leaseholds owned by foreigners. A lot of them, a huge proportion of them, by foreign companies, usually in tax havens, and all the orange bits are freeholds owned by foreigners. And so we're just a place where foreigners come to put their money and to have fun. The centre of London is so luxurious now. If you go to Mayfair and Knightsbridge, you see restaurants where it costs you £200 a head if you're lucky for a meal, and all these rich brands in Bond Street and Regent Street and so on. So much wealth concentrated in such a small area, whilst the rest of the country is going to the dogs. And I'll just quickly run through some of the brands that are foreign-owned, because some of these might well surprise you. For example, Rolls-Royce is German, Land Rover is Indian, the Mini is German, Cadbury's is American, Walker's Crisps American, Lee & Perrins sauce American, Tetley Tea is Indian, Deluxe Paints is Dutch, Tate & Lyle's American, McVitie's Jaffa Cakes, they're Turkish. Sarson's Vinegar is owned by the Japanese. Roundtree's is owned by the Swiss. Financial Times, Japanese owned. Hartley's Jam is American. Hamley's, the biggest, most famous, or not necessarily the biggest, but the most famous toy shop in the world, Chinese. Waterstones, the bookshops, they're American. Beefeater Gin, that's French. Newcastle Brown, an absolute iconic drink from the northeast of England. Newcastle Brown, it's owned by a combination of Heineken and Carlsberg. Dutch and Danish. It's not brewed in Newcastle anymore. No, it's brewed in Holland. O2 is owned by the Spanish. Asda, 75% of their owners are based in a tax haven in Jersey. Then you've got the newspapers. You've got Lord Rothermere. He doesn't pay any tax. The Daily Mail, incredibly influential newspaper. It's based in Bermuda. This is JCB, is Johnson's best friend, isn't it? JCB, the guy who kept giving Johnson more and more money. He's being investigated by HMRC for tax avoidance. His companies are based in Bermuda. 15 of our 20 Premier League clubs are foreign-owned, majority foreign ownership. We've sold everything. It's absolutely crazy. And then when you look at how the example the government sets in terms of the public utilities, rail, water, gas, electricity. When I went to Germany a few weeks ago, I took a train journey from Cologne airport to Dusseldorf. Not to Dusseldorf, to Aachen. And it was about 77 kilometres, 50 miles. And it cost me 35 pence a mile, I worked out. And I thought, I was sat in the station one morning, and I thought I'll have a look and see what it would cost if I was to buy a similar ticket in London for a 50-mile journey. And I looked at what it would cost me to go from St Marylebone Station in London to Oxford. And it worked out it would cost me 63 pence a mile, which is 80% more than I was paying to go from Cologne Airport to Aachen. And I thought, I wonder why this is, and I thought, well, I'll have a look and see who runs that line. It's Chiltern Railways. And Chiltern Railways apparently belongs to Arriva, and Arriva is a wholly owned subsidiary of German Railways. So German Railways will charge you 35 pence a mile in Germany, 63 pence a mile here. And there was a famous video a few years ago where various citizens of various European countries were saying thank you, the UK rail travellers, for subsidising our railways. And most of our railways are owned by, a very high proportion are owned by European railways or European state railways. And the water companies who are tipping all the sewage into the sea and the rivers, they're 72% foreign-owned. I mean, foreign owners don't. If you own something in another country, you've bought it because you want to make money. You're not bought it because you're interested in improving it or offering better service, unless there's competition, which in many cases, especially with the utilities, there isn't. You bought it to make money. And look at offshore wind farms. I mean, we've got 42 offshore wind farms. And the government's always gone, oh, more than anywhere else in the world. More? How many of those 42 are foreign-owned? 42 of them. Every single one is foreign-owned, mostly by Scandinavian governments. Now, they want to cut when we generate electricity for there. They're not doing it for nothing. Hinkley Point. This huge nuclear power station is taking forever to build, costing an absolute fortune. 65.5% of it belongs to the French government. 33.5% belongs to the Chinese, our best friends. British Airways even is owned by a Spanish company. And you have to say, well, maybe it doesn't matter. I'm not an economist. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's okay that foreigners own everything and they make all this money, and that very often this money goes to tax havens. On the subject of which Asda, by the way, which I think is Asda seems to be in trouble now. What is it? 10 billion in debt. 75% of their shares are held in tax havens. And we're promoting all this at the time. We're encouraging people to come here with their wealth, encouraging people to come here and spend their money, because the government says always inward investment, people showing confidence in our economy. They're not. They're coming here because they buy properties here because they're pretty safe and it's a pretty safe country. And because they know they won't be asked any questions, and they know that when they get here, there are solicitors and there are lawyers and there are estate agents and there are all these people ready to serve them and look after them. And the government brought in a few years ago this unexplained wealth, what's it called? Unexplained wealth orders, whereby they could go along to anybody who's bought a property and they say, where you get the money from. It was brought in 2018. 5 years ago. Bear in mind there are thousands and thousands and thousands of foreign-owned properties in central London. They have issued 4 of these orders in 5 years. I mean, how serious is that? Because the government doesn't want to discourage people coming here with their money. And one of the consequences of all this money flooding into central London, which has happened over the years, is that people in central London have had to sell up and move out. And as they move out, it's like ripples on a pond. It affects property prices everywhere. Up and up and up they go. Hardly any British people can afford to live in central London, unless of course you've got a PPE contract, or you're a CEO of a FTSE 100 company where you're earning 100 times what your average employee earns. No, it's the whole place has been taken over by foreigners, and I just don't know what this means for the future. I don't know how this is going to develop. I mean, what is it going to be left for us? Are we going to be the serfs? I suppose that's what it's going to be, isn't it? But anyway, it's all a bit of a mess. And we've got our newspapers, haven't we? We've got Murdoch, who's got so much power and influence. He's in America. And we've got Rothermere, who lives in Monte Carlo, pays tax there, and the Daily Mail is registered in Bermuda. It's a crazy world. And of course, all these rich people, as I say, in central London, if you go to Mayfair, you go to Knightsbridge, I mean, just fabulous shops and fabulous goods and fabulous restaurants. I mean, it's really, really rich city. And of course, all these politicians, they're all hobnobbing with all these rich people. And all these rich people want to hobnob with politicians for influence. It's all so corrupt and so rotten, and you see them all having such a good time right at the centre. And everybody else is worried and struggling, and nobody knows quite where we're headed. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say about this at the moment. But I thought it was pretty interesting, pretty shocking that so much of, particularly of London, is now foreign owned. So if you've watched this far, thank you very much indeed, as always, and until next time, bye for now.